Hello there everybody, thank you for stopping by. So today's video has changed themes and bounced around all over the place. The deciding factor in direction came from a message I received in response to my first video. In short, they were asking if the Prover 3018 was a good starting off point. Now, there are so many factors to consider, it feels almost impossible to give advice, as I am not a professional. Yet, I want to be helpful and give back, just like I have received answers to so many of my similar questions. I probably spent about 5 months of searching, reading, and contemplating before I pulled the trigger on the Prover. There are bigger, more powerful, and faster machines out there, but size, power, and speed are not the only things you should look at. There's customer service, price point, and in the end, it was the community, especially Facebook. Before my machine ever arrived, I knew that there was issues with running it direct on candle. I may have to switch access wires or reconfigure it in Gerbil. And for you Saving Silverman fans out there, fixed it. Backlash nut. Sorry, bad, I know. And I only knew that because of the community. So with all that said, who is this weird guy I'm tracing out up top? Well, this is a painting of Charles Bukowski. It's done by Creative Rob. Go check him out. His link's down in the description below. He's got some amazing stuff, guys. Seriously, go check him out. But Rob was the first person I met from another community I was part of, Studio Fling. Studio Fling is no more, but I learned so much from everybody there. I wish I could get to everybody, but there's just not enough time. So you've seen, some of you who watched my last video probably saw these two pieces. These are actually done by Jason Ice. Jason designed these in Illustrator. I was just lucky enough that he was willing to share these files with me so I could cut these out for him. I've also done some 3D prints of Vinny the Vandal there for him as well. Again, give these guys some love. Go check them out. And so the T-Rex pickle one you're seeing there is actually a good buddy of all of ours through Studio Fling. T-Rex, artist, pickle ear. I don't know if that's a word. Anyways, makes awesome pickles. Get you some T-Rex pickles. Again, link down below. Go check him out. So I had a piece for Jason done. I have a piece for Travis done. I wanted to do something for Rob. It was just, his art does not lend itself to be easily converted to nice, clean vector lines, you know, that we like for CNC. Yet, I know I wanted to give him something based off his artwork. So, after an hour of just exploring this piece of Charles Bukowski, I had to find some way to capture the weight of his paint strokes, the small, the big details, and yet keep it simple enough so I could cut it. If I traced out every line from every layer of his painting, I just have a giant clump of squiggly lines, and it just wouldn't make any sense. As compared to everything else I have cut, Rob's art here was not made with the intention to have nice, clean, definable shapes. So with this mental map I built of just staring at it, I started to trace out his painting. I mainly focused on the outline, adding some supporting detail here and there just to help me in visualizing the final design. I mean, I really had my doubts on whether I could pull this off while still respecting his original piece of art. But I just kept going and working on it until it just all started to fall in place and it started to come together. I think the toughest part about this was how to handle all the line weights. After messing around with multiple line weights, it just felt unbalanced. I had like 1 millimeter here, 3 millimeters, and it just did not seem cohesive. So I made the decision, we're just going to make all these fine details and I'm just going to try to capture the brush strokes. If I had gone with different line weights, I think on this, I feel it just would have been unbalanced and cluttered. And on the final piece, you would not have a clear understanding of where those lines came from or their purpose. So all the detail work was set at 0.1 millimeter. All I had left were the X's on the eyes and what we'll call stitches across the mouth. As those are prominent features, that was an easy decision. Those would be, I would just do those by a pocket cut. As for the font, well, I hate fonts. So I tried to pick something that had a Bukowski feel to it, something bold, but also something that had a typewriter feel to it. So I don't even know what that font's called, to tell you the truth. I just picked it and moved on. I hate fonts. End of story. Designing this took way longer than the actual cut did. I'm used to 20, 30 minutes to do a design and then go get it ready to cut. So again, I really didn't think I was going to pull this off and it come out the way it did. I really thought I was just like, you know what, let's get a test cut. We'll see where the mistakes are and we'll try again. But this first piece, this first cut came out really well. I'm really proud of the way it came out. And it only came out the way it did was because of everything I learned from the studio fleeing community and the CNC community. To give you some more depth on the studio fleeing community, it was more than a opportunity for artists to show their work. It was a place where artists who just started to artists who have been in it for decades got together and shared their knowledge. At that time, my art was spoken word. I had never even heard or thought about 90% of what I heard going on around the studio when everyone would get together and start talking about art. So what does all this art world community stuff have to do with CNC? Well, it laid the groundwork of what I do today. My first foray into the physical art world was actually digital, of course. I loved cartoons and wanted to make a funny and edgy cartoon. What ended up happening was I made a couple third grade level cartoons, which you can see on my other channel, that really went nowhere, or so I thought. I mean, on the first one, I spent months in Photoshop, mouse drawing characters and settings, and on the recommendation of Jason Ice, I switched over to Illustrator. So again, months of working in Illustrator and still third grade level production. But it was then one day at work, they needed a render of a tile design to help the client visualize the final product. Without any thought or hesitation, I went and clipped some photos of the tiles, scaled them into a pattern, well, the pattern the client wanted, and handed it to the owner of the company. My position at the time was to answer phones, emails, greet people when they walked in, help maintain the grounds, just, fancy talk for mowing the grass. To emphasize, this was just one of those moments I went, I can do that. And with no thought on what it would really mean, later on down the line. Cut to 11 years later, and now I'm actually teaching other people at the company I work for how to do renders. I've upgraded to working out 3D renders as well. I even help out in the back-end design of some of our custom work before it's turned over to the fabrication team. So I did go to college. I never got a degree, not even a basic general studies. I went on and off for 8 years. The closest I got to art in that time was Art History 101. Yet in the 4 to 5 years, that studio fling was around, I learned so many more valuable skills and techniques than I ever got from college. Now, don't take this, college is blah, 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 blah. No. I got the skills that I use today by being around these people, this community of artists. And which is why I felt the 3018 Prover was a good starting place for me. I was able to read up on all that the 3018 and CNC community had out there. I got to see the issues and how people fix them. And by week 2 of owning one, I was cutting acrylic. I know how intimidating it can be when you see the pieces people share of their work. And it just looks amazing. Then you go look at yours and go, well, looks like a third grader drew it. A side point on why I keep saying third grader, because I had a relative point blank say, "This sucks, looks like a third grader did this on one of my animations." Now, that stuck with me, and it pushed me to do better. Maybe not in animation, but I do find honesty both with yourself and from other people push you to do better. Now, there are, of course, better ways to say what my relative said, but a lesson my dad taught me about community was, you are at one point as dumb as the person who asked the question. And I know that being called dumb can seem harsh to us newbies, but please understand, his frustration was purely on those who belittled others or answered condescendingly to newbies. On the large, I don't see that on the Sane Smart 3018 page. So I like to applaud all of those out there who take the time to teach and bring the community up. So until next time, happy cutting.